An 8-year-old boy was skinned and his flesh fed to cannibal relatives after his mother kept him locked in a cellar, a court has heard. Evil Klara Mauerova, a member of a sinister religious cult, wept in court as she admitted torturing her son Andrei and his 10-year-old brother Jakub. The court also heard allegations that relatives had partially skinned 8-year-old Andrei and then eaten the raw human flesh. The two boys told how their mother and relatives had stubbed cigarettes out on their bare skin, whipped them with belts and tried to drown them. Klara Mauerova left and Barbara Skrylova with Jakub and Andrei. The boys were kept locked up inside of dog cages, where they were quite literally treated like animals. The cages were so small, the boys couldn't stand up and could hardly move around at all. They were also forced to eat inside the cages using dog bowls, and forced to use the bathroom inside of them as well, leaving them to sit in their own filth. They were forbidden to talk to each other, to their mother, and to any other person who was there. Klara would dunk their heads in water for so long that the boys were afraid they were going to drown. While their heads were underwater, Katerina would hold their arms behind their backs so they couldn't fight off their mother. They were burnt with cigarettes, scratched with forks, sexually abused, beaten, were forced to fight each other, and would often have their arms and legs tied up behind their backs. The others would also join in with the beatings and burnings, and would tie bags around their heads. They cut some flesh off of one of the boys' buttocks and burned the area that had been cut with cigarettes. They then forced the boy to eat his own flesh. They enjoyed that so much they began to take the skin off other parts of their body so they could eat it as well, and make both boys eat their own skin. If the boys ever threw up, they were forced to eat that, too. They would also make sure their mouths were taped shut so they weren't able to scream. Annika would make things worse by lying to the adults, telling them that the boys were still being mean to her because she knew they would get hurt if they continued to bully her. The group would also pretend to abuse Annika as well so the boys wouldn't think it was only them. This abuse went on for 8 days before going back home. The court heard how the family had sexually abused them and even made them cut themselves with knives. They said they were kept in cages or handcuffed to tables and made to stand in their own urine for days. The sick abuse was discovered when a man in Brno in the Czech Republic installed a TV baby monitor to keep watch on his newborn child. But it picked up a signal from an identical monitor next door showing one of the victims beaten, naked and chained in a cellar. Sick Mauerova is understood to have installed it so she could gloat over her victims suffering from the comfort of her kitchen. Barbara Skrylova in the wool hat after her arrest in Norway. Police were called, and the boy and his brother, as well as what appeared to be a 13-year-old girl, were freed. At that time police did not realize the 13-year-old, who had been formally adopted, was really 34-year-old Barbara Skrylova, one of the children's torturers. She later ran away to Norway but was found earlier this year by Czech cops who brought her back to the Czech Republic to face trial. Her brother, 8-year-old Andrei, had been locked and chained in the cellar by his mother Klara for months. He had been gagged so he could not scream and beaten as well. It later emerged his brother Jakub had also been abused. Mauerova has admitted abusing her children, but she said she had been manipulated by her sister Katerina and Skrylova. All three of them had been part of a cult called the Grail Movement, which claims to have hundreds of followers in Britain as well as tens of thousands of others worldwide. Katerina Mauerova and Skrylova and another relative are all accused of involvement in the abuse of the boys. The court has also heard claims that the abuse of the boys was coordinated by a man known only as the Doctor, who sent mobile phone text messages to the Mauerova sisters telling them how to abuse the two boys. Local media have said that the sinister figure could be one of the leaders of the Grail movement the women were involved with.